everybody, welcome back to the channel. I got Ryan Klein in the studio. It's
Howdy.
just a takeover from the last video. We were talking about your guys' new radio. It's a two-part video. Reasons is there's so many things to cover on
There
it.
really is, yeah.
Yeah, so the other video we talked about kind of the basic features and functions of it, and including some crazy online whatever. But so now let's talk about, now we're getting into the things that make me get up in the morning and brush my teeth and want to work, right?
Right.
Okay, so now we're talking audio signals and what they can do. So let's talk about the DSP that's built inside of it. So a DSP for you guys, consumers out there, is a digital sound processor. A graphic EQ
Is not DSP.
is not DSP. A DSP does so much more than that. Parametric EQ is really nice. It doesn't say DSP, it's not full DSP, and there's certain things that make a DSP. What would those things be?
Well, I think as far as what characterizes a DSP, what makes a DSP crossover controls.
Yeah, but some of those EQ ones have, they're just basic.
They're just
fixed.
basic. They're fixed.
Ah,
they're fixed.
fixed.
So what's interesting about our radio is we have high pass, low pass, and band pass.
Correct.
Now, on a fixed radio, front rear subwoofer on a motorcycle, it doesn't make sense.
No.
So when I set out to engineer this radio, I really thought about what's the rider need, and really, it's not front rear sub. We specialize in rider bikes. Don't get me wrong. We also do some show bikes that you guys will see from time to time online. But the bread and butter of the everyday guy is a rider, and
Correct.
we built the radio for a rider. And so, as far as the DSP goes, you've got 10 channels of DSP output, right?
Okay.
So we can control all 10 channels. That's the 6 RCAs.
Okay,
And the
those,
4
and by the way, those are labeled because he did it for me.
1,
Because
2, 3, 4, 5,
respeak
and
channels
6.
of amplification
Right.
because it makes much more sense, right?
Yeah.
So they named those RCAs 1 through 6. which
Correct.
You still did the radio front and rear, but I would have done those internal 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's
okay.
we can change that later. Maybe software update.
Yeah, it's just a software
I
thing.
can throw some dollar bills at you.
Right.
Okay.
No big deal.
So they named it 1 through 6, which is also on their RCAs that you have too, which makes a lot of sense if you do the Diamond RCAs. But it just makes more sense as bikes and stuff gets complex. The whole front rear thing doesn't work. And a bike, it really doesn't work. Everybody's trying to carry over car audio technology.
It's not a thing.
It doesn't make sense. Most of our bikes, 99.9%, we have one channel as the input. You're not really fading your bike.
Right.
Every now and then we'll get somebody, and I understand why. I finally understand why, by the way. I had one of our good customers from Sturgis, part of our group. My guys, you know who you are. I love you guys. You're the big group come in. They came and joined us again. And he did his 24 bike, and he just reached out to me. He did some new bag speakers. He actually put custom older bags on the new bike because he didn't like the bow of it.
That's right.
And he called up trying to figure out why he doesn't have fader. Now, 2024, I don't do fader. I don't do them on any bikes because, but it made sense. So the end of my moral of my story with that is when his wife's on there, he wants to turn his down a little bit and hers up more. I fade that out. So I understand it now. So now that I understand it, now we'll make some adjustments and offer that as an option because I understand it.
Right.
But for the most part, 99% of the bikes out there, you're just doing it.
Right.
So anyways, thank you. I just want to talk about the 1 through 6 because he made me happy.
And I mean, why? I mean, as we do our trainings around town and all the places you and I have been together, one of the things that we harp on is, front rear sub doesn't work. The front rear sub is out of a radio for a car, just brought over to Harley Davidson form factor, trying to think that was going to work. Here's the problem with that. If you've got a bike, factory front 2, good, 1 and 2. That's all you need. 2 speakers, no problem. Oh, but what if you have a CVO and you've got or what if you have an ultra classic that has a tour pack, and then what if you had an ultra classic that was also a CVO that had tour pack and bags? So how many speakers is that? That's 6 speakers. Yeah. Right.
Right.
So again, our RCA pre-outs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they're full range.
Correct.
Now, one of the most popular things that's going on now, and I'm not stupid, and I see everything everybody's doing, whether it's my brand or all the other brands that are out there, is the mid-bass drivers and subwoofers have gotten very popular.
Yes.
Here's the issue if you're using another brand, or the 2 that are available. Front rear sub doesn't work because if you're doing mid-bass drivers and the highest up your crossover goes 220 hertz, that don't work. Yeah. So it needed to be high pass, low pass, band pass. That brings us back to the DSP. You can't get that out of a very rudimentary audio control. So you guys are already buying outboard DSPs and shoving them somewhere on the bike.
Right.
We took that technology, just like the ones that are in our outboard DSPs, and we put it in the radio.
Yeah.
And it gives you better control.
Yeah.
It gives you better sound quality.
Right. And the crossover points just aren't fixed. Like, you can go,
I
want it crossed over at 63 hertz.
Yeah, you can change
manually type it.
Yeah, you can change them. Yeah. And in our newest update, which you guys will see videos on that, there's the ability to do that. It's a little easier than it was when the radio first came out. Anyways, if you have one, check for the latest updates.
Right.
But yeah, so we gave you time alignment. That's part of DSP, right? Even though on a motorcycle it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
Unless you're if you're a competition bike and you pull it under a tent, you crank it for 30 seconds and you pull it out.
It's
great. I love it.
Vegas Hardback calls that parking lot sound. We love parking lot sound.
Parking lot sound.
Time alignment works for that. But
totally into it.
We got some things up our sleeves to talk about time alignment layer.
Right.
But here's the case. If you guys want to know the difference between low pass, high pass, and band pass, and what it can do, if you think that's the thing, leave a comment down below of this video here, and then we'll make a video on that later.
Yeah, or we can do an online training.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Let me know if that interests anybody, because I never know what the public wants.
I mean, leave a comment on this video, and maybe Jason and I will do a DSP tuning session online. Yeah. You guys can all be a part of.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe kind of debunk some of the scary stuff about DSP, because there's a lot of control, right?
There's a ton of control,
and with a lot of control, there's a
lot of responsibility comes with a lot of control.
Right.
Most guys, it's a bit challenging to figure out if they, how do I say this? If you don't have a lot of trying to say this the most politically correct way I can.
Try to be PC.
If you don't have a lot of experience with DSP, you can really mess up a lot of things.
You really can.
You need to understand frequencies and sounds and where they're at.
Right. And gain structure and all the fun stuff.
And your human ears allow you to listen to certain things as well, too. So there's some things I see that people are on sort of the right track, but they might not understand why it's on that right track.
Right.
Right. And that's where it's at. Unfortunately, there's a lot of shops out there that don't understand DSP.
Yeah, and I get it, and that's why we're here.
So if you don't understand DSP, you've also got this thing on there called a global EQ.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could just leave the DSP
completely alone. Yeah.
Flat. You can have just crossovers on, and the global EQ is basically that. It's an EQ like every other radio. So you have both. Now, me personally, I hate that you have both. For somebody that tunes vehicles and tunes bikes.
And we get that. We understand it.
Just fingers this. But I do know there might be a possible software update because you're tired of me complaining that we can lock out one of them.
Yeah. Okay. So that is
because what you don't want to do is you don't want to boost frequencies up here, then go global EQ and
boost
because now you're putting clipping in the system. Right. When you clipping, you lose sound quality, you get shittier sound, and on an AB amplifier, you actually lose output.
Right.
So you got to be super careful with that. Right. And we're going to talk a lot about DSPs in the future, riff classes, because you always want to try to cut. There's a whole theory behind it, right?
So
But the cool thing about that is, on the DSP, you've also got the standard thing, and I understand as a manufacturer because people want it. I just hate it. I begged and begged these guys when I played it, but they got the pop concert, blah blah blah. You just keep that flat because if you have a full DSP, now it's one more thing like bass extender.
I didn't want it either, but I got vetoed.
Yeah, it's just one more thing that you can do to kind of screw up stuff and blow speakers and everything else and make it sound like poop. You accidentally have it on there. So if you're one of those guys that go display board like at our rallies and you go to the radio and you immediately turn it over to pop and you immediately crank everything up and it goes, oh, it sounds good, you're actually making it sound worse by a mile.
Making it worse.
It's horrible. And we try to educate everybody on that because, tunes save lives, and we like great sound, so we want that. So you have a global EQ, and so besides those flat, which we keep everything flat, but pop, country, whatever else you get on there, you've got 4 presets on there,
right?
Which are super cool, and the presets allow you to select a frequency in that EQ and then click it over to another one, and you go, well, why would I want that? Well, I might want something different than highway. I want maybe a little bit more brightness out of my horns, my strivers. Because you lose your sub bass anyways. Maybe then maybe like in town, 35 miles an hour below, we call parking lot sound.
I
want a little more low end. I don't need those as bright because that's where it's at. So they're programmable, which I think are cool. It's user 1 through 4.
Yep.
But let me ask you a question. Are you ever going to make it so we can change the name of the user 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is that?
Yeah, at some point I'm sure we could.
Okay. So that means no. Okay. All right.
Well, what we didn't touch on is typically on most radios, even the super crazy high-end ones in car audio, that EQ function and the DSP stuff that's built in really only ever affects the RCAs. Yeah. But we didn't even talk about the fact that we gave you high pass, low pass.
Well, that's where the
pass,
channels, out of the deck
out
power.
of the deck power.
So you have DSP control on the deck power.
Every single power. And what we also did for those of you guys who are not using the deck power to power speakers, which you could, there's a function in there that allows you to match the output of the internal power to the output of the RCAs for 10 full channels. So if you're doing a big boy sound system, there's no need for an outboard DSP. This thing's got 10 channels of RCA preamps.
Right.
4 are high level, 6 are low level. But they're all matched so that there's no gain overlap.
And then one of the things you guys did, just to kind of clarify to everybody, that I don't think it get mentioned, so it's like, well, why do I want a full DSP and full digital crossover? I can high pass, band pass, choose my frequency, and it's 52 watts and 28 watts, whatever it is. Right, 4 ohm, 2 ohm on a radio. Well, why would I want that, right? Because it's not enough to power a speaker. Well, it is. The thought process for you guys, and I know we talked about this, was having it available for additional tweeters. So you can have tweeters just running the deck power. Or horns. Now, 52 watts, 2 ohm, that's perfect for your like MO75T. So if you don't make them a 2 ohm
yet. Not yet.
So a lot of times manufacturers come out with stuff that might not make sense, but they're already know where they want to go to. Like you guys already know the MO75Ts are going to come at 2 ohms.
Right.
So now your horn drivers get the perfect amount of power.
Right. They'll be
at 2 ohms off the radio.
Correct.
Now I don't have to worry about another couple channels.
Correct. And what is that? But what that does is it saves space underneath the fairing that is so precious on most of these bikes, unless you're using an aftermarket amp rack available from Vegas hard bags.
We got our new stainless steel models all coming out, so come see us at SEMA Show. Come to the Diamond Audio booth, you'll be able to see them.
Yep, click the link below on the website. And so that was one of the other reasons. Well, we have this thing, it's just sitting there. It's not doing anything, so why not make it do something? Why would we have it if you can't use it?
Correct.
Right? So use it. That's what we put it there for. We put it there for a reason. We put it there so
it saves you money on amplifier.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do another amplifier for my horn. So I don't have to bump up to an 8 channel. So I save money there. Oh, if I don't have to add another horn for that, that means I don't have to have another set of power ground remote RCAs. Oh, and then I don't have to pay labor for that. Or if you do it yourself, I don't have to worry about that.
Correct. Oh, and what's the other thing?
And I got to buy an amp.
So most of those tweeters, how much power do those things handle? 75 watts is what? RMS?
I think it's 50. Yours is
50 and 75. Yeah. Right. Name me an amplifier that y'all are doing these days that you're not grossly overpowering your tweeters.
Yeah, well, we do a fully active here at Vegas Hard Bags, and if you come to rallies and then you see our site with all that stuff, you'll understand.
Right.
We're all about, that goes back to the channels, 1 through 6.
Right.
We do everything per channel. We don't use the words 4-channel amp, 6-channel. We do channels of amplification because it makes more sense.
Correct.
But if you really think about it, I'd rather have, one of the basic misconceptions, we have a video coming out on that as well too. It's already shot. I need 800 watts to the left side and 800 to the right side. Really simple to explain that to you. If I got a tweeter that takes 50 watts, a 6-inch driver takes 125, and my 6.9 takes 150. That's not 800 watts. When you overdrive a driver, you can blow it very easily.
Right.
But here's the bigger thing to think about that real quick. How does an amplifier know what wattage to give to each one if it's running all of them?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So that's
they're very dumb people.
Yeah, it's in and out. It's in and out. All right, so let's talk about a few other features. We got a lot of features to cover here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So you can use your gloves because it's the screen adaptive, whatever you guys call it. So with the gloves on, I can do controls on the radio. Yeah,
so it's glove sensitive, and it's not just motorcycle gloves. I know Harley makes them, and a bunch of other brands make aftermarket gloves that have the little pads on them, so you can still touch the factory screen. Well. So, here's the thing, right? If you're getting in your bike and you're like, shit, where'd my gloves go? But I got these gardening gloves and they're leather. They're going to keep my hands warm. Screw it. I'm going to grab those.
Right.
You didn't even realize you did. You put them on, you took off. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Your factory radio, that ain't going to work. You have to take your gloves off to make some adjustments. Well, on ours, doesn't matter what gloves you're wearing, they work.
Yeah, exactly. So
again, it goes back to the safety thing, which we talked about in the previous video.
Which is this list of stuff. When you guys developed the radio, you didn't go through the whole list because you want to talk about it, but these are the things that you guys thought about, and you make a master list and said, what are all these things we can do in a radio, and how do we make this? I still understand how you got this price point with all this stuff, but it's great for everybody who wants a radio, right? That's the way I look at it. I don't have to buy a DSP. It's built in. Now, have you seen some questions like, should I? That's a whole other thing. Right. All right, cool. It's IP67 waterproof.
Yep.
Whatever the hell that means.
That means you can wash your bike and not worry about your radio getting ruined.
Okay.
One of the things that we also did that no other manufacturer thought of is, I don't care what bike it is, there's a gap between your radio and the interfering. And so what we did was we included in the box a foam gasket. You put that on the face of the radio. It butts up against your interfering. When you lock the radio down, it creates a watertight seal, and
Right.
guess what doesn't get inside your fairing?
Right. Right.
So-
It's really cool. So
Yeah.
you
And
got-
that's such a stupid
Right.
thing to think about, but it makes such a huge, right? It was
such
like one of those things.
Well, also stops if it's tight on it. It stops
Right.
squeaking.
Correct.
It's going to keep the radio from
Correct.
getting damaged and vibrate up and down. Now, I've got a cool video of Sturgis here with a Street Glide.
Yeah.
And it's vibrating so bad as it's
Yeah.
running because it's got
You're
aftermarket
driving a
pipes and
two-wheel
everything.
paint shaker.
Right. So so that's going to keep from scratching as well.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of really cool. And then you guys did a copper chassis. I'm going to ask
did.
you why.
We
I
did.
know, and I know why it looks. It's a painted. It's not
Yeah,
copper because that's
it's
really
not
expensive.
copper, but it's painted copper, and everyone
Yeah.
asks us why we did that. Well, if you know anything about the brand,
Correct.
going from our car audio ultra, high end
Right.
Hex Pro, that was copper and black.
Correct. Your
Our
micro
color
amps
scheme,
are
right? Our
copper.
micro amps, our micro 8U
Right.
series amps, copper and black.
Yeah.
So so if you've got a radio and it's inside your fairing and right below it is an amp that matches your radio, it looks pretty freaking cool, doesn't it?
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Right. It was really cool. Now the funny part about that.
Yeah, it makes it a cohesive look
Right.
for our
The funny
brand.
part about that is when you guys came on the radio, you guys got a really bad rap. Like we talked about a little bit before.
Sure.
I really laugh at this stuff because it's kind of strange to me, right?
I agree.
A radio is a radio. There's like 10
yeah.
different brands of radio. You guys
Yeah.
got ones that specifically fit. I think there's 4 companies that have specifically fit. Is it
There's
3 or 4?
three,
Three companies that are form fitting.
Correct.
Other than that, the features and functions between each manufacturer is
are
always going to be
completely
different,
Yeah,
right?
completely different.
So you guys got told you copy.
Yeah.
Which it's a radio. It's like saying, "Oh, you copy because you made a round speaker."
I agreed.
It's the most.
Our color scheme for the last 20 years has been black and copper. So guess what? We went black and copper.
But anyways,
Whatever it is, get over
it
it.
cracks me up. The reason why I bring this up is there's some manufacturers out there who are mad. You guys came out of the radio and blah
Yeah,
blah blah
whatever.
blah. But the funny part is then they came out with their new version after you guys did like 2 or 3 months, 4 months,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
was. And lo and behold, they painted their chassis copper, but the
But
colors
the original one was black.
right, but their colors don't have copper.
Right.
So
None of their colors have
so
copper.
who's copying who? Just want to point out that I thought that was funny. Now, there's one thing also on that radio that a lot of people don't talk about, and it gets unlooked because there's so many features and functions of radio. We're going to forget something, but your heat sinks are super thick on that.
Yes.
And why would you want a super thick heat sink on your radio?
So, a lot of riders ride in the heat, right? It's, you got a black
Oh,
bike.
Vegas. It's now October.
Yeah, and it's still 90 degrees out. It's ridiculous.
I think it's like whatever the day is.
It might be 90.
It's 15th, and
it's 90 at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it was 94 degrees.
It's
today.
unacceptable. But anyway, so the reason why we did heat is bigger heat sink is heat is the killer of all things audio. Correct? Right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so brand B, we won't name it because I'm not that guy.
Right.
Uses the factory heat sink thickness. Well, one of the killers is the giant screen of Black Death.
Yeah.
And the reason why it gets to that point is the heat dissipation in the chassis, and there is none. Well, and the other thing is, okay, so if I've got this big heat sink, what's that mean? That means my amplifier, my internal amplifier, all my IC chips, all my outboard boards stay cooler, right? So what does heat do when we add it to an amplifier?
It gets it to hot heat everything, and then it starts to a thermal rollback.
Correct. So if I can mitigate the heat issue, then my radio's going to last longer, which means you can go on longer rides without any interruption.
Correct.
And for all of you that don't know, there's a patent filed on that radio. We own a patent on the heatsink design. We own a patent on the software and hardware combination.
Yes.
With the internal DSP and things like that. And what you guys have not seen, or that we've talked about it. If you've come to any of my trainings, we've kind of hinted towards it.
Right.
But now that we're like around the corner and kind of getting ready to do some stuff here in 2025.
Right.
We have that extra heatsink because we're going to do something that's going to turn this thing upside down.
Yeah.
And I can either talk about it now or we can talk about it later.
We're going to talk about it later.
Just so you know that it's there for a very, very specific reason.
But the big thing is so we just don't run heat because the motorcycle's outside. So you get these hot, even humidity in Florida, Georgia,
Florida,
and the Midwest.
I mean, the South, it's crazy.
You
got
to have that, right?
It's gross. I can't do it.
So here's something that your radio, and I'm sure if the other manufacturers have it, but I'm just going to talk about what your radio has because I'm always shocked if things are and it gets overlooked. Like even at rallies when I'm selling these things, I can't remember all this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so it's got 6 programmable outputs. They're negative triggers, so they come off the radio.
Yeah.
You wire them to relays, and they can control things.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
For example, you can control your air ride up and down.
Yeah.
Right off your screen.
I mean, look,
LEDs. You can turn lights on and off. So if you got some cool LED lights at night, I want to just turn them on. I don't have to hit another switch on the bike.
Yeah, you and I have done quite a few rallies at this point, and we've touched a few hundred motorcycles in our time, right? And we see some really gross setups when it comes to wiring and accessories and switches and shit. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to just put it on the radio?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you not just get rid of the switches that are all over your bike in the places they shouldn't be?
Right.
Like, why do you got to reach under your nugs to try to friggin' lower and raise your damn motorcycle when all you got to do is push a button on the screen
or the hand controls.
Custom hand controls. This goes back to the reason why you got to flash the radio is we got to tell the bike, hey, this accessory is connected to my radio, and I want you to control it. And this is how I want you to control it. It's amazing.
It's a cool thing. So like I said, you can do air ride, LEDs. You can turn the amps off. You don't want the bass playing. You can do heated seats. Ejection seat in the back for that rider that you don't want on the back of your bike anymore. Just the way they go.
Off it goes.
Exactly. Can you name those? So does it say button 1 through 4? Or can you?
No, you actually in the Maestro programming, you can actually give it a custom name, a full name of what it is.
That's cool. So if you have like a bar light,
and there's some icons on there that are customizable too. So you get the icon comes up on the screen with the name underneath it.
Right.
And again, you can customize the outputs to do many different things.
Right.
You're timed, latched. It's just a quick little push button, like for air ride. It's just a quick toggle on and off. You push and hold it, and it does the function. You let go, it stops. You know,
that's really cool.
Super simple. There's a bunch of people out. There's a couple of brands out there. I know. iDattling and First Tech have micro relays that are real small. Those Bosch relays are kind of big if you're doing 6 of them, trying to down and hide them. But there's a few brands out there. Again, the First Tech has that micro relay box.
I just thought of something that you mentioned earlier. We'll talk about this off air. I have an idea on that. All right, cool. Well, we're going to try to do this in 2 videos. But we still got more to talk about, man. So we're going to make this a 3-part video now. So we want to thank Ryan Klein from Diamond Audio. Come here as well. West Coast Regional. He's got some product development.
Yep.
And John was on this project as well too.
He was.
I can't even say his last name. I screwed up every time.
It's Catalano.
Catalano. I said Cantaloupe or Cantaloupe. I just call him Cantaloupe, right?
Or we just call him Cook.
Cook.
For those of you who know, you know.
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know, you're missing out.
Come to Sturgis. Real feature.
For those of you who haven't, sucks for you.
I've never worked 14-hour days, sweat my butt off, and still gain weight, right? So that tells you something. But so we're going to do 3 parts. So if you like this video, please hit subscribe. It helps our channel. Like it as well. Leave any comments of other videos you'd like to see from us. But check out for 3. So we're going to go video number 3 on this radio.
Part 3.
So we'll see you guys on the other side.